Hello, everyone, and welcome to Practical Inclusion on a Friday afternoon, which is a different time slot for us. And so hopefully you're headed to the end of the week and enjoying to sit back and have a listen to what I know will be an awesome conversation with my guest today. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I live, work and play on and broadcast to you today from, and that's the land of the Wadawurrung people, and pay my respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, and any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders who may be watching us live through Facebook or LinkedIn, or who would be watching the replay. Jerusha, whose land do you broadcast in from today?
I am currently at home in Melbourne. So yeah.
Beautiful.
That's where I am.
Awesome, thank you. And so we're not too far away, really, on this
Yeah.
Zoom. Now, I am so glad that you agreed to come on my show, because I think it would have been over a year ago, I think, that I first saw you present at the Sage Athena Swan conference in Brisbane, I think it was, which is a conference held for mainly universities and medical research institutes who are looking to increase the number of women working in the sciences. And you fascinated me with your story, but also your incredible passion and advocacy, and your approach to advocacy around diversity in STEM, particularly, but also diversity more broadly. So it's been so exciting that you agreed to come on this show today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. So yeah.
Beautiful. Now, I would love you to tell us your story, as I do with all the guests who come on the show. I'm particularly interested in what drives you around some of the advocacy projects that you're taking on currently, and a little bit of your background too.
Yes. So I was born in a small town in Sri Lanka, and the doctors said I would never walk or talk, and I came to Australia when I was 2 years old, and I received therapy which improved my motor skills and my speaking skills. Then I was able to go to mainstream school and finish my biomedical science degree. And then I went on to do honors in biomedical sciences, and then now I'm doing my PhD in biomedical science. I am also interacting personally on Instagram. I am a very big disability advocate. I have cerebral palsy, and which means I move a little bit different, and sometimes I talk a little bit, but I still get the job done. Yes. So yeah. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you do more than get the job done. You're popping up everywhere with all kinds of different amazing things that you're doing, and yeah, biomedical science in itself, doing a PhD in biomedical science itself, incredible. It was beyond me. Chemistry was my kettle of fish. Thank you for sharing that personal story with us. When we spoke earlier, there was a couple of topics we wanted to touch on today, and one was specifically around the advocacy that you've been doing around packaging. And I know this is really dear to your heart, and not just yours. I think the evidence that a lot of people have been frustrated with the design of packaging for a long time is in how much support you're getting for this particular petition and campaign that you're running. Can you tell us a little bit about what the problem is around packaging and what you're hoping will be the solution or the outcome of this work that you're doing?
Sure. The problem is with packaging that it is not made or designed for someone like myself, and also like there is various other conditions. Yes, so it's not really designed for someone like myself, and it can be really, really hard to manage. And I think it would be nice to it would be really nice to see more packaging made for people with disabilities, and this would really, really impact so many other people's lives. Because not even like some kind of equipment that I've been using haven't really been like good for me and my individual needs.
Yeah, I liked the article you wrote about that really articulated your desire to be able to cook more, and that opening packages was one of the key barriers, or one of the main barriers to being able to cook more for yourself. And it was just after reading your article, I'm then in the kitchen, and to get all the packages open myself, I found it quite difficult. Let alone I can now, after reading your story, it made me rethink of all the processes that you go through when you're cooking your meal, and how it really doesn't make sense why those packages and equipment that you're talking about couldn't be designed in a much more inclusive and accessible way.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree. I think that's why I started my petition to make people aware of the problem and to try and create change. Because I think a, a lot of these brands and manufacturers, they don't really think it's a problem. And I sometimes feel like I'm talking and talking and talking and and um I see very little initiative or action, and that really is challenging. But I think the more we talk about it, the more awareness and the more awareness, the more initiative. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's another element to this too. Totally take your point around awareness. It's so important that we raise that. But I think we also need to think, and I know Ainsley's listening in, and Ainsley and I are running a seminar on this in a couple of weeks, I think, around this idea of inclusive design and how we design things for inclusion from the beginning, rather than having to constantly retrofit, and having people like yourself having to advocate for inclusion. One of the solutions, obviously, that we're always talking about is increasing the diversity of people in STEM, in science, technology, engineering, maths and medicine, so that perhaps when things are getting designed in the first place, there are some more voices around that table and some more input. Is that something, I guess, is that another one of the areas that you're really pushing towards, is having more inclusive design from the beginning and maybe more diverse voices in those design processes?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I am pushing for. I'd like to see more like manufacturers and brands include people with a disability in the design processes and ask them for feedback. And like work with them to figure out their needs and their wants, and then try and solve the problem. Because if we like all sit together and really work together, we can find some really great solutions. And it's not just for people with cerebral palsy. It's for a variety of different people. And I think it's really important that we start to recognize this and start to take some steps to really tackle the problem and really start to teach people about the problem in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've nailed it there. It's getting more voices, more inclusion. But yeah, as you say, we're not talking about isolated issues. And this goes back to, my whole argument, and I know many share the same view as me, that we need to be approaching inclusion with such a more broader lens than what we do. And a lot of the diversity in STEM kind of work and advocacy has been so focused on gender that we haven't really opened up the concepts and the conversations to diversity and inclusion more broadly. And I know there's been criticisms of many of the Australian programs that are clearly focused on gender, and they have started to include some intersectional aspects, but I think still it's an add-on, it's an afterthought, and it's not at the center of what we're doing, that we need to try and create inclusion for as many people as we possibly can, rather than just focus on gender or specific singular equity cohorts. And I can see Ainsley sitting there and agreeing with us as well. You told me a really cool story. Not a cool story, to be honest. It's a pretty rotten story, but it's a great example of one of the key problems that exists within STEM in terms of our desire to want to increase the diversity. Can you tell me the story about you trying to search for a PhD supervisor?
Yeah. I struggled to find a good supervisor because people couldn't really see past my disabilities. There were like some people that said, "How are you going to do that? And how are you going to do this?" And instead of really focusing on my strengths, they started to judge me based on what they saw. And that was really hard for me because I personally don't come from a science family. Like, my family is into business, so there was no one to really push me apart from my mom and dad. But I think it also was my family motivation and drive to really get this. And I really in Germany, like Paris, I really persisted, and I did really struggle. Like, some days I would feel like, why am I doing this? It's so hard to like find someone. Why am I doing this? And then, but I think overall my individual determination really played a big role. And I found a really good supervisor team that's really supportive. But not a lot of people are that lucky. it can be really, really challenging to find a really good supervisor who really understands your needs and who can see your potential and who can give you a chance, you know, who can give you an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think I have bought a lot of them views. Um, and because somebody believed in me, my potential, you know, and somebody gave me a chance to you know, achieve this. And but I also think that my motivation and hard work played a big part too. And yeah, I think that it's really important that you find a really good supportive team for anyone because here do that it's really, really hectic and so challenging.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
There's enough. There's a few things I want to say there. Number one, there's enough barriers in place as it is to get into a PhD study of any discipline. And what you're describing there is significant extra barriers just to find someone who would see the potential that you had and that you could absolutely do a PhD, and to recognise that that not everybody's going to do it in exactly the same way. And as you say, it's important to find that supportive supervisor, but there should be way more of those out there that are opening their minds and able to see the true value of having you doing that PhD as opposed to recognising the barriers.
Exactly. I think we need to be more open-minded about these things. We need to really give someone a chance, like even in the lab setting. We need to start giving people with a disability a chance to become scientists and doctors and show their potential. And we need to really believe in them. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to believe in ourselves, and that's why we need good mentors and good supervisors that can really believe in someone's potential and that really want to teach someone that really wants to help them succeed as a scientist. And I think that my PhD experience has been really good so far. There's been a lot of challenges, but I think it's been really good. But the cost of the pandemic I have had certain challenges that I had to work through. But apart from that, I think it's going okay. Yeah.
That's great to hear, and I can't wait to see the outcome when you get through it and what you do next. It's,
yeah. Yeah, it's all a big thing.
Yeah.
Very exciting and very challenging all at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now we've run to pretty much the end of our time today. I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your story and giving us all plenty to think about and some great action points there, particularly for people in the STEM fields and in higher education. Now, if anybody wants to get on and support the petition around accessible packaging, if you head to Jerusha's LinkedIn page, you'll find all the details there, and I'll put them up on this post after we've ended the live today. If you want to catch the captions, you can watch this on YouTube sometime tomorrow. I will have them up there ready for your viewing and sharing if you would like to do that. Just a reminder before we go, enrolments are still open for my Inclusive Leadership course. I think at last count there's about 6 spots left. So if you're interested in jumping in that, we're planning to start probably at the end of the first week of March. So if you jump onto my website, www.breegorman.com/e-learning, you can enroll through there and jump on as soon as you can, and we can get the course started. I'm really looking forward to running that again. Thanks, everybody, for listening in, and I'll be back next week. And thanks very much again to my guest, and good luck with your PhD.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.